from Abuja.
Hello, thank you for being a part of our show. I appreciate you. I am Magnus Packle, and this is Magnus Packle GVA. As you know, it's all about how we can raise the level of living. That's what it's all about. In view today, many things about Nigeria with a focus on the Niger Delta. We talked to Ambassador Joe Keshi, Chairman of UBA and Director General of the Braced Commission of the South-South Geopolitical Zone of Nigeria. He gives his narrative on developments in the Niger Delta and Nigeria as a whole. Stay with us, because before that, in our hidden economics, we check out the economics in the election game. But up next is our quick view on business and development indicators. That's coming right up. Tourism is an important sector to our country's economic growth and development. African countries will do well to pay good and appropriate attention to this. According to the World Tourism Rankings compiled by the United Nations World Tourism Organization, which of the following African countries is not among the top 4 in tourism arrivals? Morocco, South Africa, Zimbabwe, and Kenya. Of the following, which country was the most visited in 2012 by international tourists? United States, France, Spain, and China. Which of the following countries received the most income in tourism in 2012? France, United States, China, and Spain. Stay with us for our answers coming up shortly. To contact us with information, please see our email address displayed on the screen. Still in view, many things about Nigeria in a discussion with Ambassador Joe Keshi. But up next in our hidden economics, the economics of the election game. We all know that to many politicians, politics is a game. You win it or you lose it. Game theories have what they call a cooperative game, and that's one in which players voluntarily agree to follow rules and abide by a result. So if there are cooperative games, then there must also be non-cooperative games. Let's start with cooperative games. Football, golf, tennis, basketball are all cooperative games. Is politics a cooperative game? It most certainly is if it involves a process leading up to a budget. Politicians, even in climes where there are no separating philosophies or ideologies, always somehow find a way to make politics a cooperative game in order to not lose out completely in apportioning the budget on favorite programs. After all, politics in the end is about how to spend other people's money. Okay, let us say for the sake of decency, how to spend, in quotes, our money. All that bickering, all that posturing, all that talk is about the money. Because of this, the game of politics is on aggregate likely to always be a cooperative game, except when the majority or party has an overwhelming influence. So let's dig into the belly of politics and examine an aspect of it: the election game. The election game, as a part of the larger game of politics, is also supposed to be a cooperative game. There are supposed to be rules to be followed. However, in many situations, it is a very non-cooperative game. It appears as if it has no rules and no referees, never mind the Electoral Commission, who, God bless them, are working hard to ensure some sense of organization. Even in the United States, where the democratic process is well respected, often it appears as though Congress and the president, especially when in different parties, have decided that the get re-elected game is non-cooperative. Neither party often gives its politicians much room to maneuver, and voters have been rewarding candidates who disparage compromise. Why is the election game a non-cooperative game? It is because it is cheaper and more rewarding to win and then face the consequences of breaking the rules than to lose and face the steep cost and Herculean task of reclaiming a lost victory in court. What this means is this: in the election game, especially when it is made non-cooperative, the potential benefits of winning at all costs appear to politicians to far exceed the burden of any related costs. Perhaps we need to make the penalty of winning at all costs more severe. Our hidden economics for you. Our hidden economics. Before we start our discussion in view, here are our quick view answers. According to the World Tourism Rankings compiled by the United Nations Tourism Organization, Kenya is not among the top 4 African countries in tourism arrivals. France was the country most visited by tourists in 2012. The United States is the country that received the most income in tourism in 2012. After the GDP rebasing, Nigeria is now the largest economy in Africa, as it should be, given its disproportionately large population compared to other African countries. Managing a big economy and a large population of diverse ethnic groups is not that easy, especially in the face of limited skill sets and infrastructure. A strategy that must therefore be used is aggressive decentralization aimed at promoting increased competitiveness. Some people call it devolution of powers. The center certainly cannot hold if the building blocks are not strong and firm on the ground. The Braced Commission, consisting of Bayelsa, Rivers, Akwa Ibom, Cross River, Edo, and Delta in Nigeria's South-South region, is hopefully committed to building the region from the bottom up by developing programs that strengthen local economies as primary building blocks. To discuss this and more on Nigeria, we have Ambassador Joe Keshi. Mr. Keshi has served Nigeria around the world as ambassador. He was also a permanent secretary in the federal government. He is now the chairman of United Bank for Africa, UBA, and also Director General of the Braced Commission in Nigeria. Please join me in my discussion with Ambassador Joe Keshi. Well, thank you, Ambassador, for being in our studio. We're very pleased to have you. You know, you wear many hats. That sometimes don't even know how to properly define you. But now you're also Director General of the Braced Commission of the South-South, which when it was formed, I really hailed it and saluted it. I thought it was magnificent. And then, especially because they had somebody of your stature and caliber, to head it. How is that going so far? What's the principal mission, first of all, for our viewers to understand the Braced Commission? What's the principal mission of it, and how is it going so far?
The principal mandate is to foster the Braced Commission. By the way, Braced is an acronym for Bayelsa, River, Akwa Ibom, Cross River, Edo, and Delta states. Yes. Now, these are very contiguous states in the South, which is part of the larger Niger Delta, states. But these are the core Niger Delta states. These are the states in the South.
Absolutely.
They are very contiguous.
When you're saying that is the exclusion of like Ondo and some
exactly,
of the others. Okay,
they are very contiguous.
Yes.
From rivers to Bayelsa, probably less than with a good road, and the roads are coming. It's probably less than an hour and a half
from Port Harcourt
to Yenegua, yes. And from Port Harcourt to Yo, probably yes. A little bit 2 hours, yes. and the rest. Now they came together. They realized the importance of forging economic cooperation and integration, yes. Particularly focusing on issues of economic development that's cut across the states. They appreciated the fact that with a region so well endowed and yet so underdeveloped, that working together in concert, yes. Yet they could accelerate their development. And this was what the commission was established to do, to look at regional issues, regional projects, and to conceptualize this and see how we could run with this. And that's exactly what we are trying to do, looking at the core of what we could describe as major regional projects that the regions could collectively, deal with, maybe in close contact with one another, or maybe in close association with the federal government.
So let me ask a question here. Now let's look at it internationally. If we were to look at analogies, is it analogous to, let's say, the World Bank of the South-South, the United Nations of the South-South, or the IMF of the South-South?
I would say it's more like a miniature yes. form of the European Union.
Okay.
Because the European Union is, or ECOWAS, by the way, which okay. is very close to you here.
Okay.
Because the European Union is devoted to economic cooperation, mm-hmm. And integration of Europe itself.
Yes.
And you could see how long it's taking them to forge that.
So the end would be you have a common parliament, you have a common
we're not thinking
administration.
We're not thinking that far yet. Okay. When the European Union started, it didn't think that far yet. Okay. The major thing is first of all to deal with the economic issues,
okay.
to focus on regional development and to see what we can do collectively as a region and make sure that development in that region is at par and we are all growing at a very good rate and doing the same thing. So that's exactly what the commission.
And who would be bringing the money? How would the money be assembled for a commission like this?
No. For example, it will
by subscription, or how did they do that?
No. By just like any other organization, yeah. members pay.
Yes.
Pay to keep the secretariat going. It's based in Port Harcourt.
Yeah.
But when it comes to doing things, regional things, it depends on what you have to do. For example, we've been talking for a long time on a railway line that runs from Lagos to Calabar.
Okay.
Now, as of today, rail development in the country is within the purview of the federal government, which now leaves us with working with the federal government and the southeast states and the southwest states, okay. because the rail is going to run through almost 18 states.
Okay.
So there's a need for collaboration, between the states yes. and the federal government and the private sector that we hope to bring it into the equation. So that's exactly, what we are working on now.
Is that very long term, especially if it is on the exclusive list? Except maybe this conference now might put it on the concurrent list.
We don't even have to bother ourselves about whether it's on the exclusive list or it's in any list at all. What we need to do is to face the reality, one, that we need a rail in the southern sector of the country.
Okay.
The second thing is that we can work out, which is what I believe in, that we can work out a form of cooperative venture that involves the federal government, the states, and the development partners and private sector.
Yeah. The states in the commission, well, states that own the commission, have they tried to look at their advantages, their comparative advantages, their endowments? For example, say if you're Delta, here Delta, we're talking about Delta without oil or beyond oil.
No,
have they looked at certain competencies that they have, certain endowments that they have and said, we will leverage these endowments and then look for investments that will complement them?
No, I think they are doing I think they are doing that. For example, every state in the region is actually thinking seriously about the future without oil.
Yes.
And they are looking at agriculture. What we have proposed and which the governors have accepted is the fact that let's look at our strengths and our weaknesses when it comes to...
But do you have strength in agriculture? Where do you have land in Bayelsa?
No. No. Look, here's the deal for all of us. In agriculture, we have the capacity to be the oil palm belt of the country. Bear in mind that in the 60s and the 70s, before oil became the mainstay of the Nigerian economy, oil palm was one of the main
particularly in the Niger Delta.
No, particularly in the eastern region, which is part of So what we have advised is that all the states can successfully grow oil palm as part of the mandate of the commission. That is, as part of the economic cooperation, everybody grows oil palm. Then you now look at two more items or products that you have a comparative advantage, and then you focus on that. For example, Bayelsa State can do extremely very well in aquaculture. So you can make aquaculture number one in Bayelsa State. Bayelsa State has the capacity to produce
bananas, I wanted to say that.
Yes, banana. Yes. So you can now focus on the production of banana, and build the value chain in terms of banana. River State is investing a lot today in a plantain. So you then, what they call Cross River is doing a lot today in cocoa as an extra to what they are doing in oil palm. So if we can get all this done, in the next 3-4 years, these regions will actually be earning a lot from agriculture.
Ambassador, why I asked that question about comparative advantages and questioning looking into agriculture is, what about tourism? What about manufacturing? What about things like trade? For example, like the type of things that we have in Dubai, where you have big time regional malls. And I'm not talking regional in terms of Nigerian regions. I'm talking in terms of Africa. So we have a West African big time mall. All these in say Port Harcourt, Calabar, someplace. And people come from all over the place instead of going to Dubai.
All these
like in the vision of Duke when he was looking at Tinapa.
But you saw what has happened to Tinapa today. Look, let me put it this way. In terms of tourism, for example, I believe that Cross River State has actually gotten it right. I was at the last carnival this December, and what I would love to see is to see us from the region, make that a big event, even a bigger event than it is, in which everybody from the region participates.
Yes.
And to make that happen means that we have to revisit the road structure as it is today. Develop a fine, massive, road network that will enable me to take my children from Port Harcourt under 2 hours.
Absolutely.
Go to Calabar, enjoy the carnival. By 10 o'clock, we are back home. We can sleep at home and the rest of it. But they've gotten it right. River State has its own Reef Carnival and the rest of it. What I think we need to do in terms of that is to synchronize this and make sure that one can detail into the other. And so when you have visitors coming into the country, they can actually go through one or two, But what you talked about the rest, the comparative advantage, these are going to be the offshoots of what we're trying to do now. Look, when you develop this Niger Delta corridor that it's going to, apart from the oil facilities, it's going to include manufacturing, facilities and so on that will create jobs, because each of the petrochemicals and so on, they definitely would, across the value chain, all the manufacturing will be there. So at the end of the day, these are things that will come in as offshoot. Look, if we improve agriculture and build a value chain, part of the value chain is the manufacturing, the processing.
Yes.
Of some of the
but that's exactly
products.
where I'm headed. But why don't you just go to Benue and get the yam and get all the other things and go to Plateau and go to Kogi, go to all these different places, get their things and you manufacture them, you process them. So you are known as the person with expertise.
You can even process to start with. Process what you even produce to start with. Okay. So again, it has to do with the political, not just the political will, but the political understanding of the advantages you have, and coming together and agreeing. Is it in fear
that in case something happens to the nation, at least you have plantain and banana to eat? Or?
No. Look, no matter what amount of plantain and bananas that are produced in the South, it's still going to be exported out.
Must you have political harmony? By that I mean have one political philosophy throughout the South to have good, genuine, transparent cooperation. For example, should all the South states be PDP or APC for you to have this kind of understanding and harmonization?
What is needed most in Nigeria today is strong economic growth driven by mass participation. That is what will raise the level of living and the quality of life for all Nigerians. Equitable and mass participation in the economic development process is what people now call inclusive growth. To be specific, inclusive growth refers both to the pace and pattern of growth. When people speak of inclusiveness, I'm hoping they recognize that it encompasses equity, equality of opportunity, and protection in the market, and especially employment transactions. A private sector arrangement that is driven on corruption, an unfair and rough playing field dishonors people and will not succeed. What is fundamental is that inclusiveness honors people, and honor brings the best out of people. Honor is a principal fluid for lubricating arm's-length transactions and economic integration. However, it is important to note that economic integration is not complete because policy leaders from various geographies and constituencies meet. Economic integration works best and approaches completion when the private sector is driving it and policy environment is fertile and promoting of inclusive growth as I've defined it. What the South-South region has set up with the Brace Commission should bring much good to the region. If it promotes economic integration driven by local community players in private enterprise and operating on a level playing field. I commend the governors of the South-South for this great vision. But the vision should not end with setting up the Brace Commission. Regardless of differences in political orientation, the principals who demonstrated extraordinary leadership in inaugurating the commission must now use it to spur mass participation in the development process and therefore strong, inclusive economic growth. The Brace Commission can be a key ingredient for accelerated economic growth that ends poverty and leads to higher levels of living throughout the South-South and the nation as a whole. It can be a major engine for a national growth pole. I'm Magnus Paco, and that's my view.
I